we will start our session, and thank you so much for joining us. Dear participant, I would like to welcome you to the BRICS Forum on Municipal Governance. The forum was organized in the year of Russia chairmanship in the BRICS. So the topic of our meeting is civic participation in the digitalization of public governance. I would like to stress that we use term governance, not administration, not management, because I think a term governance is most suitable, more relevant for the problematics of digitalization and for the problematics of participation and civic engagement in public administration. So, highly qualified experts from Russia, Brazil, India, South Africa, Argentina, and Estonia have gathered here. Thank you so much for your desire to be here. And this session will be conducted mainly in English. Some reports, some talks will be in Russian. To get a translation from one language to another, please use the button at the bottom of the ecran, of the screen, with the globe, I think. I don't know. I don't see this globe, but I think there is this globe for translation from English to Russian and back. So the presented topics of speeches will allow us to discuss the central problem of the fourth industrial revolution related to digitalization and to public governance. I mean the problem of governability, which is directly related to civic participation. It is civic participation that ensures the effective and sustainable governance of public affairs. Of course, civic participation and civic engagement and digitalization of public governance face a number of challenges, big issues, and obstacles. Today, we see the COVID-19 pandemic transforming our plans and the projects. It touched upon, among other things, the problem of civic engagement, digitalization, and public governance. So we see different strategies for dealing with the pandemic. Some countries use a policy of dealing with causes. Other governments choose the policy of dealing with consequences. And everywhere we note clear tendencies of increasing civic engagement in policy, in public space, and so on. So we will consider these topics here. I want to remind you of the time limit. Each speaker has 7 minutes to present the report. The slides are controlled by a technician accordingly to your signals. You could ask him to move slides from one to another. If we have time, we will discuss the problems and answer questions if you arise. And I ask you to pose the questions using chat. At the end, we will discuss and answer on the questions. So thanks for the participation, and we start. So I give the first floor to Doctor of Science, Professor of Moscow State University, Sergei Volodinkov. He is a leading specialist in the field of internet communication and digitalization. Please, Sergei.
Thank you. Okay, so my topic is devoted to digital national sovereignty in the context of digitalization of public administration space. First of all, I would like to say that it's evident that the contemporary state is interested, any contemporary state is interested in creating digital platforms and those innovative tools of mass communications that will satisfy the growing demands of citizens for various kinds of services within the paradigm of e-government, its webs, applications and portals. That will solve the task of national security, countering terrorism, crime, and corruption. That will perform analytical tasks, conclude complex research, forming statistical databases, detecting correlations, cause and effect relationships in the behavior of citizens. And however, at the same time, digitalization is accompanied by the emergence of an increasing number of digital avatars of virtual officials and virtual politicians. However, almost immediately there were risk of false digital avatars used to imitate the activity of both real people and their official virtual representatives. Also, in the context of the development of digital technologies, we note an increase in the volume of intelligent bots. The interaction between them helps to improve the quality of services through flexible personalization of settings when communicating with real citizens. Suppose in place of real political actors, representatives of a state or a ruling party, suppose in the place of real political actors, we put subordinate to their interest, but at the same time capable of self-communication bots functioning based on artificial intelligence. In that case, we get a unique hybrid subjectness, the purpose of which is all the same classical subordination of a control object. Hybrid subjectness is interesting in that it hides from citizens a real actor aimed at the political and managerial processes through the imitation of human communication with technologies, algorithms of neural networks, and artificial intelligence. It's enough to imagine that the moderators of virtual communities and active participants in social platforms will be bots that will begin to communicate with each other, initiate discourse, construct and disseminate fakes, and influence the political agenda. As the analysis of the current practice of digitalization demonstrates, contemporary technologies will allow soon to replace political actors, politicians, government institutions, political parties, with algorithms of neural networks, the function of which will be to carry out information and communication activities on behalf of a real user, based on an analysis of the user's preferences and his previous experience assimilated with artificial intelligence. In fact, nothing prevents neural networks algorithms from communicating on behalf of various actors in the processes of a social interaction. What will be the manipulative potential of neural networks capable, based on the analysis of personal digital traces, to influence on consciousness of a person who is convinced that he is communicating not with artificial intelligence, but with a real person? It's a question. As Sean Gurley notes, artificial intelligence and learning algorithms will make it almost impossible to tell robots from humans and real news from fake. And we will see the emergence of more automated computation propaganda, bots using sophisticated artificial intelligence frameworks, removing the need to have humans operate the profiles. Algorithms will not only read the news, but write it. These stories will be nearly indistinguishable from those written by humans. They will be algorithmically tailored to each individual and employed to change their political beliefs or to manipulate their actions. At the same time, interactions will not necessarily use exclusively the human neural networks format. It's potentially possible to implement the neural network format, horizontal format, neural network, within which a person remains outside the framework of a communication process, socio-political communication process, for example. In the implementation of such a scenario, we will face the phenomenon of self-communication in which there are no actors as such, since software algorithms will replace them. At the same time, the value semantic content created by intelligent software algorithm may turn out to be fully unrelated to interests, needs, and values of a person. What role will a person play in these self-communication processes? To what extent will the construction of socio-political ideas, meanings, values, and symbols, as well as their transmission in the internet space, remain processes that belong to a person, to a human, and not to algorithms of neural networks and artificial intelligence? Such a socio-technical order can be based on a self-communication mechanism when many tasks of political parties, ministries, organizations will pass to intelligent systems that interact with each other on the principles of self-communication. A party, a ministry, or a specific political leader already unable to process a massive amount of information in the new socio-technical conditions and force it to use the services of bots will acquire a hybrid subjectness. As a result, we may face a significant decrease in the competencies in the field of independent decision-making by citizens that affect the socio-political processes. A person may be excluded from the space of public communications. The critical problem is that the creators of artificial intelligence technologies and neural network algorithms have their own interests in politics, economics, and global governance. Public governance. These interests can significantly affect the substantive aspects of the functioning of artificial intelligence and neural networks in the digital communication space. Moreover, we do not exclude the implementation of a scenario according to which there can be quite a lot of such key.
You have 1 minute. One minute.
Thank you. Key players in the field of artificial intelligence, and relationships between them can be not only competitive but even antagonistic. Such antagonism, accompanied by an acute clash of interests, can manifest itself in the competition to the minds of people in the digital space, where various technological solutions based on artificial intelligence and neural networks algorithms are designed to realize the goals of different actors. We can assume the likelihood of a formation of such a hybrid communication space in which the ordinary person will only become a victim of a collision and confrontation between various stakeholders who have the competence of creating and applying technological solutions based on artificial intelligence in neural network. The purpose of such struggle or competition is to turn people into mass carriers of specific ideas, perceptions, and behavior models that meet the interests of one or another global or regional actor. So I think in the conditions of extraterritorial nature of contemporary social and political communication, so the question arises, can digital actors realize the interests of external actors? What are possibilities of states to protect their own digital spaces, prevent the distortion of national big data used in the processes of social and political governance, exclude the manipulative impact of fake bots simulating real citizens, both of the consciousness of citizens in the digital space and the decision-making processes based on public discussions? After all, such public discussions can turn out to be simulated and controlled in the aspects of discussed agenda and the formation of attitudes towards real socio-political events and processes. In other words, it's my last sentence. In other words, it seems to us extremely important to discuss the problem of digital national sovereignty in the context of the rapid digitalization of the public administration sphere and political governance, public governance sphere in conditions of technological transformations, digital technological transformations. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sergey.
Thank you. Thank you.
There are many problems with national sovereignty in the context of internet and space of internet. How can we join multilateral relations in this field with sovereignty of the state? So we will discuss maybe later. Now it's pleasure to give a word, to give a time for speech for Margarita Pavlova, the member of the Federation Council of the Federation Assembly of the Russian Federation and the member of the Committee on Defense and Security. Please.
Добрый день, уважаемые участники. Слышно меня хорошо? Уважаемые коллеги, Международный муниципальный форум – яркий пример солидарности, взаимопомощи и конструктивного диалога стран. Темы для обсуждения очень важны. Я с вниманием послушала первого докладчика. Очень правильные темы сегодня затрагиваются. Спикер Совета Федерации Валентина Ивановна Матвиенко на 6-м парламентском форуме БРИКС отметила, что в современных условиях весомую роль играет широкое внедрение новых технологий. Она предложила расширить сотрудничество парламентов стран БРИКС и существующих при них экспертных советах в вопросах создания правовой базы цифровой трансформации. Конечно же, я тоже поддерживаю это мнение. Очевидно, что 21 век будет отмечен в истории человечества постепенной и неотвратимой цифровизацией всех сфер жизни. И 4-я промышленная революция разворачивается прямо сейчас и нацелена на массовое внедрение киберфизических систем в каждое крупное производство и сферу удовлетворения потребностей людей по всему миру. Изменения, которые принесет революция, глобальны и затронут все стороны жизни. Политические системы, рынок труда, жизненную среду, быт, технологии. Но самое главное, они заденут человека. И мой доклад не о развитии цифровизации в России, речь о более глобальных вещах, понимание которых не должно сделать человека рабом цифры, либо выжить человека и оставить на этой планете только цифры, искусственный интеллект и киберроботов. Безусловно, сегодня идет острая дискуссия о рисках, пользе, недостатках цифровизации. Одна из плоскостей – это технический прогресс приведет не только к формированию цифровой компетентности личности, но и к появлению прослойки в обществе неких цифровых аборигенов. К ним потенциально можно отнести и лиц пожилого возраста, и лиц с ментальными нарушениями, а в некоторых случаях и малочисленные коренные народы. Не везде есть цифра, и не все смогут быстро адаптироваться к новым цифровым условиям. Одни люди станут продвинутыми в цифровой действительности, другие же обретут беспомощность. Кроме того, уже сейчас ученые говорят о том, что внедрение цифры приведет к сокращению рабочих мест. Люди потеряют привычную им работу, не все могут стать конкурентоспособными работниками в индустрии цифры. И отсюда вывод: цифровизация не должна привести к расслоению общества, иначе сама идея технического прогресса, она становится ничтожной. Я прошу прощения, я забыла говорить о том, что нужно слайды менять. Поставьте слайд номер 5, пролистайте быстро. Основная дискуссия между программистами и общественными организациями, правозащитниками и юристами о необходимости четких границ, незыблемости и неприкосновенности прав человека цифровым государством. Технологии приведут к развитию искусственного интеллекта, а сможем ли мы его контролировать? В этом у многих, кстати, в том числе и в профессиональном сообществе, есть сомнения. Цифра расширяет или ущемляет права человека? С одной стороны, развитие цифровых платформ и мобильных приложений упрощает реализацию некоторых прав, например, экономических или участие граждан в управлении на уровне местного самоуправления, решения региональных вопросов. Повышается прозрачность информации, и помощь людям оказывается в системе одного окна, снижается бюрократизм, документооборот. С другой стороны, формирование политики масштабного цифрового контроля за гражданами приводит к нарушению основополагающих конституционных прав, включая неприкосновенность частной жизни, передачу данных о человеке во все органы публичной власти. И отсюда задачей государства должна стать защита личных прав человека, разработка нового цифрового поколения прав человека. И поэтому уже вчера мы должны были подумать об этическом совете, состоящем из чиновников, ученых, философов, правозащитников, чтобы лет через 5 не обсуждать нам, как сохранить главное право человека на жизнь. Следующий слайд. И третье. Внедрение имитационного моделирования может повлечь остановку развития общества и государства, поскольку исключит фактор случайности. Решения будут приниматься на основе цифрового моделирования, а не реальных обстоятельств жизни, которые многообразны и связаны со сложившимися традициями и системой сдержек и противовесов. Это может завести общество в тупик. И последнее, о чем бы я хотела сказать, у человека должна остаться возможность управлять процессом обработки персональных данных. У общества есть очень серьезные опасения, и законодатель на это должен ответить регулированием. Нельзя отказываться от бумажных носителей, и если в один из дней кто-то просто вырубит рубильник, ни людей, ни истории человечества не останется. И мое мнение, что наряду с цифровыми виртуальными технологиями публичной власти должны остаться и традиционные. Следующий слайд. Можно следующий. Хорошо, это был последний. И, конечно, не надо забывать историю. Она напоминает нам о том, что единый идентификационный номер человека уже был. Его придумали в фашистской Германии. Все это было осуждено на Нюрнбергском процессе и признано геноцидом человека. Выражая надежду, что органы публичной власти, как никто другие, понимают суть происходящих новаторств и позволят обеспечить баланс интересов общества, государства, цивилизации, в которых главное это все же человек. Спасибо за внимание. Вас не слышно. Вас не слышно.
Мы вас слышим.
Михаил Владимирович, мы вас не слышим.
Леонид Владимирович.
Sorry. Thank you so much. There are the big question with the rights of citizens. And we need to understand that the conflict between, for example, surveillance and surveillance in the field of internet, we need the right of citizens and understand what does it mean, these rights, and what the problem and conflicts and gap we have inside internet activity of the citizens. Thank you so much. Next speaker, I think, will be Barishkin Alexei, manager on the development of business in our very important company for development of digitalization for public administration, Netrika. So please, Alexei, the title, Analysis of the Experience in Implementing Digital Platforms for Communication Between Citizens and Regional Authorities. Please.
Thank you, Leonid. Hello, dear participants of the forum. К модераторам, пожалуйста, просьба включить презентацию. Let me share some of results of research that we conducted in the framework of a large project, outsourcing of political judgment, a critical analysis of information paradigm of network public communication. We're implementing this project together with colleagues from the Faculty of Political Science of St. Petersburg State University, Leonid Morgunov, with the support of the Russian Foundation for Basic Research. In the context of digital transformation, tools for digital communication of people are becoming increasingly important. The focus of our research is urban and regional digital platforms for communication between citizens and authorities. Performing tasks important for the project as a whole, at the very beginning, we managed to obtain some practically important results. To form a basic typology of platforms, to determine the characteristics that are important for research, to identify some interesting practices of countries, regions, cities in organizing digital communications of residents and authorities. Следующий слайд. Следующий слайд. To date, the research is ongoing. We have analyzed almost 100 digital platforms for communication of citizens and public authorities in more than 30 regions of Russia, as well as in some regions and cities of Europe, America, Africa, Asia, and Oceania. In most cases, the front office of such platform is a specialized internet portal or portal section. In our research, we focused on the tasks important to the project, identified key functional characteristics, typology, best practices. Assessment, rating, quality of implementation, activity of the platforms were not significant for us here. Следующий слайд, пожалуйста. Следующий слайд. Based on the results, we have identified several types of digital platforms. Со слайдом, видимо, не получится, поэтому получилось. A specific type of portals on the slide, you can see numbered 0, exist in Russia according to the federal law for processing citizen appeals. Such solutions are used in all regions of Russia. Interestingly, there are similar foreign solutions. For example, a special section of the portal of the Mumbai municipality, India, which serves complaints from the population. The first true types of portals is the portals of urban regional problems. This type of digital platform allows citizens to submit messages about existing problems in the city's infrastructure or the work of institutions, track the solution of problems, comment and evaluate the degree of the solution. Examples of implementation are in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Moscow and Leningrad regions, the Komi Republic. Outside of Russia, such portals are often aggregators of urban services. This type, for example, is implemented in Los Angeles and Rio de Janeiro. The second type is initiative assessment portals. Usually, the authorities put forward planned or already implemented projects for evaluation of citizens. And citizens assess such projects, often actively discussing them via platform. The most famous platform of this type in Russia is Moscow's Active Citizen. A similar type of digital platform is used in the Finnish metropolitan municipality Helsinki. The third type is public participation portals. In this case, city or regional authorities present on a digital platform a wide range of tools for people to communicate within urban communities, putting forward and discussing initiatives, forming project groups, voting, crowdfunding tools, and much more. This type of platform has not yet become widespread in Russia. Perhaps the only full-fledged example is crowd.mos.ru portal in Moscow. In European countries, this type is more common. There are good examples of implementation in London, Barcelona, Reykjavik. The implementation of this type on the scale of a whole country is extremely interesting. We are talking about the MyGov portal in India. Scale of whole country. And of course, in many cases, digital communication solutions cannot be categorized as any of the above three types. The fourth option is very often used, a combined portal, which includes components of two or three types above. The combined type is typical for digital communication platforms in many regions of Russia, the Novgorod, Amur, Trans-Baikal region, and others. Outside Russia, the city portals of Auckland in New Zealand and Cape Town in South Africa can be cited as examples of such type. And next, you can see on the slide on the screen. In the course of analyzing digital communication platforms, we identified a certain correlation between the type of platform and the management culture prevailing in the regional authorities. So, for example, the portals of regional problems is more typical for management teams that profess the concept of service state and are guided by a well-structured process management. The use of portals for evaluating initiatives is typical for those managers who strive to be in trend, to make decisions that will be positively received by the majority of citizens. Public participation portals are typical for large metropolitan areas, multicultural cities, and world capitals. Следующий слайд, пожалуйста. Next slide.
Alexei, you need finish.
Yeah, I follow you. For our company, as a developer of appropriate digital solutions, some practical implications of the study are important, which indicate the need for in-depth analysis of such regional features as the changing management culture and mentality of regional teams, features of communications and interpersonal relations in the region, linguistic and terminological features, and so on. An important practical outcome of our project will be an analysis of how the affordances of digital platforms influence the nature and style of communication, and ultimately the formation of political judgments.
Thank you so much.
For attention.
Thank you so much, Alexei. There is some problems with the platforms. In Russia, we have different platforms in different cities, in different regions for relations between authorities and citizens. But the question is how this platform influence on the participation of citizens, how they form the public reason for resolving some public affairs. This is the big questions for relations between technicians and authorities, between technicians and scientists, and so on, and so on. We need find resolution how platform organized for real citizen participation. Dirk, are you here? Dirk.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Now we have the next presenter, Kotze Dirk, Doctor, Professor of Political Science, University of South Africa, Pretoria. The title of presentation, Digitalization of Local Governance in South Africa and Civil Initiatives. Please.
Good. Thanks very much for this opportunity. I think it's a unique opportunity for us to participate from so many parts of the world. As the title indicates, I would concentrate more specifically on South Africa. in a very short space of time. I think from our point of view, digitalization and the relevance of that is very much situated within our current situation. Our situation of rapid, quick urbanization, which is associated with our different forms of development, and specifically in South Africa, is the context within which this is taking place. What we are seeing is there's a very rapid influx of persons coming from outside South Africa in the form of refugees or as economic immigrants. They come from neighboring countries. And a lot of that is not actually very well regulated. So it is undocumented. And as a result of that, the government, the different types of government in South Africa, local government, provincial government, and the national government, don't always have all the statistics and information and documentation available in order to understand exactly how many people are coming into South Africa. That leads to a massive migration process from outside South Africa and also within South Africa from different areas. What we are seeing is that there's a lot of migration from rural areas, from areas where the farms and agricultural areas are to the urban areas. The result of that is that it is exceptionally difficult for the different governments, to be able to planning in advance. And as a result is that most of our big cities, metropolitan areas, or big towns are not actually prepared for these newcomers. As a result of this situation, there's a massive pressure on public services, on accommodation, housing, and employment in these areas, in these new concentration areas with South Africa. And it is very clear that it's impossible for the government to be able to continue with their old procedures of manual processes, of people standing in long queues at public offices to get what they want there, or for documents to move in the form of files by hand. For example, in the case of persons who are applying for certain for identity documents, the documentation within the police departments, and all of that. The old method of doing it, therefore, is not sustainable anymore. Because of this new demographics within South Africa, as well as the quick developments that are taking place, and the fact of this high concentration of people in the urban areas. At the same time, the conventional methods of providing services and of governance in general also created opportunities for corruption. And under conditions like where we are, corruption is always a factor. And it is something that we would try to see to what extent it can be countered by new forms of governance. For example, especially in the police or in the justice system, sometimes dossiers or files disappear. But it's not only disappear because of bad management, but also because of the influence of corruption. The personal involvement of officials can create also the opportunities for manipulation of decision making and other forms. So by digitizing, the digitalization process is therefore seen as one method, not obviously not the only one, but as one method in which corruption can also be countered or can be prevented because the human factor becomes less and less. I'm not suggesting that it is completely eradicating all possibilities of corruption, but there's certainly in the experience of the South African situation, it has already contributed quite a lot. One good example of that is, for example, with tax collection, the collection of public revenue. And our institution, which is called the South African Revenue Service, has become exceptionally well digitized. And that has improved the collection of tax tremendously, as well as identifying criminal syndicates and identifying also crime elements. So In that sense, the digitization process has not only improved the income of government, but has also identified quite as important, more organized criminal elements, which, as in the end, is making a contribution towards fighting crime. In South Africa, at local government level, and that is what my topic is supposed to concentrate on, there are many steps that have been taken to digitize services and processes. It also creates opportunity for civic participation. I want to mention a few of them, and I think that's my main contribution to this discussion, to illustrate some of them in quite practical sense. The first one is with electricity supply. There are different forms for us as citizens, as consumers, how we can deal with electricity supply by the local government. One way is that a meter is installed, and it works on what we call the prepaid principle. And you, as the person living in that house, can go to many places. You can go to a supermarket. You can go to a petrol station. You can go to a small shop, and you can upload a certain amount of money on your prepaid card that you put into your meter at home. Then when that is finished, you can go back and renew that. So what it does not depend anymore on a recording system by the council. So in a sense, you as the consumer are managing it yourself, although the income obviously of what you are paying are going back to the council. A second form that's being used is that although you have an electricity meter in your house or in your residence, that meter is, and which is linked to the council, so you can then see how many units you've used per month. You then send that reading, you send to the council to a specific email, or even you can upload it onto the website of the council. And through a debit
Dirk, 1
order,
minute, please,
yes, and
please, 1 minute.
good. And through a debit order system, you can then pay for it. The same applies. I don't have time to go into the detail for service problems, like where there's water or electricity problems. The same with public security, where we have also systems that WhatsApp systems that we can link it to the police as well as to private security. Public participation, which the previous speaker referred to, many of the different documents at local government level that deals, for example, integrated development plans of the different local governments, how draft bylaws, changes in land use, and all sorts of aspects, which requires public participation. There's websites of the local authority in which those documents are published, and then you can upload your feedback onto those also. Lastly, and then in conclusion, is the role of civic organizations. Now, we are in some areas well organized in terms of taxpayers or residents associations. These associations have their own digitized platforms. They can also then arrange for virtual meetings with officials from the local authority, as well as bring in contact the different residents associations with the officials. In conclusion, I would say that the COVID pandemic has speed up many of these processes. It also does not depend actually on only the best technology that is available. This cell phone has become one of the most effective ways of digitizing in developing countries like South Africa. And with this, many people can have direct contact with many aspects of local authorities and local governance. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dirk. It's very interesting because sometimes we think that digital governance could be without people, but now we change this situation. We understand that digital technology and people is inseparable during organizing of public administration. For example, corruption or right for privacy using documents and so on the different levels of governance. Thank you so much for good presentation, dear. And now I would like to give a word Gavril Kirillin, Minister for Exterior Relations and People's Affairs of the Sakha Republic, Yakutia, Russia. The title is Civic Participation and the Digitalization of Public Governance in Sakha Republic, Yakutia. Please.
Thank you, Leonid. Dear participants, let me thank you for inviting me to take part in this section, which is concerned with the digitalization. And let me introduce myself. First of all, my name is Gavril Kirillin, and I represent the Sakha Republic Yakutia, which is the largest subnational body, not only in Russia, but in the world. And please, sorry, I will continue my speech in Russian to introduce the situation with digitalization in our republic, in Sakha Republic Yakutia. Конечно, уважаемые друзья, тема гражданского участия и цифровизации для нас очень важна не только в силу общероссийского или мирового тренда, но и в силу того, что Якутия – это огромная территория, которая требует, конечно же, особых подходов в управлении. Если мы говорим о том, что до этого года цифровая трансформация у нас проходила эволюционным путем, то, конечно же, пандемия коронавируса значительно подстегнула темпы цифровизации в нашей республике. Фактически за несколько недель мы обеспечили переход более 90% школьников, студентов наших учебных заведений на дистанционное обучение. Были внедрены электронные сервисы предоставления государственных услуг в медицине, открыты бесплатные доступы к электронным версиям популярных журналов и к фондам 62 музеев в Якутии. Большинство предприятий у нас перешли на онлайн формы работы, тем самым у нас увеличится объем электронной торговли и сервисов. Сегодня мы являемся одним из лидеров цифрового развития в Российской Федерации. У нас создана обширная инновационная инфраструктура, который включает в себя технопарк Якутии, IT-парк, региональный центр инжиниринга, венчурную компанию Якутия и фонд развития инноваций. Конечно же, учитывая специфику нашей республики, цифровая трансформация совершается неравномерно по всей ее территории. Наиболее активно она развивается в городах и в районных центрах. Небольшие муниципальные образования, особенно это касается арктических регионов, конечно же, не ограничены скоростью интернета. Но силами и средствами наших информационных компаний организован доступ в интернет в 512 населенных пунктах республики из 637, в которых у нас проживает 99% населения. Волоконно-оптические линии связи построены до 269 населенных пунктах, в которых проживает 87% населения. И до 2021 года мы планируем подключить к сети интернет 1221 социально значимый объект. Это и школы, и больницы, и фельдшерско-акушерские пункты, органы местного управления, пожарные части и так далее. Можно сегодня уже констатировать, что цифра уже сейчас имеет существенное воздействие на все отрасли экономики, социальной сферы, может значительно трансформировать все действующие модели управления. И в дальнейшем наше цифровое развитие будет развиваться на основе стратегии цифровой трансформации Республики Саха-Якутия на период до 2030 года, главной задачей которой является создание единого информационного пространства за счет обеспечения 100% домохозяйств доступом к информационно-коммуникационной сети интернет. Ускоренными темпами будут совершаться цифровые технологии в сфере государственного управления, это и предоставление услуг в электронном виде, принятие решений на основе данных, внедрение электронной демократии. С учетом наших расстояний для организации первичной медицинской помощи очень актуальна разработка и внедрение платформенных решений телемедицинских консультаций и дистанционного мониторинга состояния здоровья пациентов. Это актуально как раз и по решению ряда вопросов по раннему прогнозированию и выявлению заболеваний, в том числе ковид. В сфере образования у нас наиболее востребовано внедрение дистанционных образовательных услуг. В сфере культуры это оцифровка музейных и архивных фондов с возможностью дистанционного доступа к культурным ценностям нашей республики. Ну и, конечно же, цифровые технологии изменят и уже меняют бизнес-модели в сфере ЖКХ, энергетики, транспорта, экологии, предпринимательства, туризма и обеспечения безопасности жизнедеятельности населения. Зачем мы все это делаем? Ну, прежде всего, это мы делаем не только для того, чтобы повысить качество предоставляемых услуг, но и чтобы снизить неравенство. Главная наша цель – это вовлечь наших граждан в процесс управления своим городом, своим населенным пунктом, что, конечно, соответствует и самой концепции и модели местного самоуправления. Если мы говорим о платформах, о которых вот мы говорили ранее, да, то, конечно, с 2013 года у нас в республике действует платформа, краудфандинговая платформа One Click Якутск, которая у нас является инструментом эффективного взаимодействия населения и власти. Уже 40 тысяч жителей города Якутска, это 15% от общего числа нашего города, зарегистрировано на этом портале. У нас этот портал выступает таким местом мониторинга всех проблем и обработки всех заявлений, поступающих от граждан, а их поступило за годы работы портала более 10 тысяч заявок. Конечно же, это в основном жалобы на деятельность городских служб, и каждая проблема рассматривается индивидуально и решается. Портал One Click Якутск был неоднократно презентован на крупных международных площадках по открытости муниципального управления, был признан лучшей мировой практикой по версии Всемирной организации местных электронных правительств городов и местных властей, лучшей практикой в Российской Федерации по версии Общественной палаты Российской Федерации и лучшей практикой в Российской Федерации по версии Всероссийского совета по местному самоуправлению. И, конечно же, мы, учитывая этот положительный опыт, назрела необходимость его распространить на всю территорию республики, а это территория республики более 3 миллионов квадратных километров. И мы как раз в 2019 году создали такой же портал, но уже на республиканском уровне, назвали его One Click Якутия. Он имеет 14 сервисов, если предыдущий портал у нас имел 3 сервиса, то этот портал у нас имеет 14 сервисов. И, конечно, мы будем дальше развивать это. И, конечно же, создание такой единой платформы позволит в будущем нам тиражировать такую практику и в Российской Федерации. Тем более, что уже за год работы наш портал был признан лучшим региональным IT-решением. И, конечно же, эту работу мы будем продолжать и совместно, в том числе с вами, уважаемые коллеги, потому что цифровая трансформация у нас в республике является приоритетом в нашей работе, приоритетом работы всех органов государственной власти, именно с учетом того, что мы должны вовлекать большее количество граждан в управление нашим регионом. Эта работа постоянная, она будет идти, постоянно будет развиваться, конечно, с учетом каких-то показателей и индикаторов по времени. И, конечно, коллеги, ваш опыт тоже для нас очень важен, ваши исследования, ваши практики тоже для нас важны, мы готовы к сотрудничеству с вами. Уважаемые друзья, я благодарю вас за внимание. Спасибо большое.
Thank you so much. It's very important questions about development of the different territories. We could name these territories with digital technologies like smart territories, I think. And smart territories help us to decide some very important questions in social, political, public life, and so on and so on, especially at the big territories like Sakha, Yakutia, and inequality and fighting inequality in the region. It's very important for development of digital technology and the relations authorities and citizens. Thank you so much, Gabriel. And the next speaker, this is representative from Brazil, Jose Maria de Souza Jr., a professor, doctor, academic director of the United College Rio Branco from São Paulo. Public governance and the social media interaction. Please, Jose.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's 7:30 in Brazil right now. So I'll just would like you to know I'm going to talk about that I have a focus on social media interaction. I'm bringing you the case of Brazil, but I don't think Brazil has a special situation to tell the world about. I think all countries or all societies suffer from the same problems Brazil also suffers. So my reflection here is basically trying to bring some concepts together and trying to evaluate potential deterioration in the quality of democracy coming from the social media interaction. So these concepts I am giving reference to are basically public governance, which is a concern. I believe it's the common concern we all have here. And basically saying or referring to governance means we are talking about people, groups of people, collectivities, trying to match their demands, trying to solve their problems. So governance is different from government or governability. Governance is basically how people solve their issues, how people search the solution for their problems, right? So we cannot really control governance. It's more something like how people do what they do, how people search for these solutions. Social media interaction has increasingly matched the idea of governance, because we are trying to create forms of control or trying to identify illegalities or identify exacerbations that happen in the social media interaction. But how we control that is trying to catch the situation as it happens in terms of governance. So people interact, and afterwards, after the interaction, we try to see if they made a mistake or they committed a crime in the social media, and this has been increasingly a way of trying to regulate these social medias. The thing is that the social media interaction has three concepts. I can name three concepts that might deteriorate democracy. The first concept we call serendipity, which is the fact that people do not, or better said, people are not exposed to chance when they are in the social media. They are not exposed to any kind of news. The news they are exposed to are directed to them, are only what they are into. They are not exposed to getting to know something they did not search for. The greater vehicles of media are more into the chances of destiny, that better said. But when we are in the social media, we are very directed to customized content. This customized content make us interact only in the second concept I want to bring, which is the echo chambers. In other words, we only talk about what we agree with and who do we agree with. So we only talk about people who agree with us, and we don't have a space of debate or a space of interaction, critical interaction, and the possibility of disagreement with other people in the same society. From these two concepts, serendipity and echo chambers, we jump to the third and last concept, which is context collapse. Therefore, when I have contact with content that I was not searching, that is not from my mindset of agreement, something else, something different, this is always taken out of context. So I cannot have access to how the situation was built up, on how the things really happened. So I have contact with something that is out of my bubble, let's say, and I do not know how this event took place exactly. So the event was taken out of place very, very often on purpose, and how I have contact with it means that I will preform an opinion that is really what my echo chamber already knows or already thinks of this event. So all this together tries to show us the risk of democracy deterioration. In Brazil, we don't have a discussion right now if we are going to become an autocracy or not, but we have a discussion on how our democracy might deteriorate. And it deteriorates not only from the government perspective, but also from the society perspective. And social media interaction represents the risk of deterioration of democracy from the society and not from the government. So basically, in a very succinct way, this is what I had to present to you. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure being in your presence virtually.
Thank you so much, Jose. It's very important because sometimes we understand mass media and the social media, network media, like simple medium or simple tool for communication, simple mechanism for relation between authorities and citizens. But I think in the digital age, in the network society, we need reconstruct our understanding of the role of mass media. And maybe mass media, this is a general part or very important part of public governance. We need input public media in the system of public governance, I think, because Facebook, Contact, and so on, this is the platform for deciding of some very important public affairs, for agenda setting, for implementation of public decision in the space of public space, and so on and so on. Thank you so much, Jose. And now I would like to give a time for report Shapovalova Eladia, a doctor, professor, chair of the Department of Philosophy of Science and Technology of St. Petersburg State University. The title of the presentation, Studies of Digital Governance Technologies, Opportunities and Limitations of Actor Network Theory as a Theoretical Framework. Please, Lada.
Yes, thank you, Leonid Vladimirovich. I have a presentation. Would I ask somebody to start it? Thank you. Yes, thank you very much. In my short talk, I would like to discuss the implementation of actor network theory to digital governance research. And I focus on citizen participation processes. The opportunities of ANT, presentation. Okay. The opportunities of ANT. I need the first picture if you are listening to me. I need the first picture. So the opportunities of ANT usually relate to following elements of the theory. Yes, I need second one. Second picture. First, researchers use the concept of translation that clarified how to build a working network between participants of different interests. In our case, between citizens, government, experts, etc. Second, please, can you change your picture? Thank you. Second, ENT is often associated with the equal treatment of human and not human actors. This is called the principle of generalized symmetry. This principle becomes relevant when we consider digital technologies as non-human actors. Third, researchers use the difference between intermediaries and mediators, which demonstrate the changing status of technology that enables citizen participation in governments. Intermediaries transport their forces or voices of participants more or less without transformation. Mediator actualize the differences between actors, make noise, and create problems in interaction. In this three-way, researchers using ANT seek to understand how digital governance projects are being realized as a heterogeneous network of actors. I would like to emphasize the concept of an actor as the one capable of action, but not necessarily having any intentionality. The concept of actor usually comes together with the term agency to describe actors' action and their effects. To contrast to the agency, the concept of activity presupposes intentionality. The concept of actor and agency become problematic when discussing the processes of involving active citizens in governments. On the one hand, this concept allows describing various participants of governance processes without paying attention to their objectives, and without building a priori hierarchies between them. On the other hand, this concept may conceal the fact that some actors who are already empowered may not take into account the objectives of other actors in the governance processes. With this concealment, it is impossible to answer the questions of whether the citizens involved in the governance are active, that is, they express their own objectives in the participation or not. Now I will briefly present some results of the research of the digital platform Active Citizens. Please change your picture. This, please, second picture. This my research demonstrating the problem of using this concept. Active Citizen is a platform that was created by Moscow government in 2014 to involve citizens in governance. It exists along with Our City platform and crowdsourcing project platform. Using Our City platform, residents turn to the city administration with complaints describing problems that need solution. In the case of crowdsourcing projects platform, citizens offer their own ideas related to the improvement of the city for further discussions and decision-making. In contrast to these two platforms, Active Citizen presupposes that not citizens, but Moscow government determines the issues for discussions and voting. It is in the case of Active Citizen platform that the problem of activity of citizens participating in voting arises. Next picture, please. Поменяйте картинку, пожалуйста. Active Citizen platform works within the complex digital infrastructure. Okay, for citizen engagement in governance. This structure includes next pictures, if it's possible. This structure includes the city government, citizens, social networks, experts, and various administrative authorities, including organization new governance technologies. The presence of a variety of actors justified an appeal to the actor network theory when considering the functioning of this network. The digital platform works in this network as a non-human actor. Next picture, please. Следующий слайд, пожалуйста. In this network, the platform starts to act as an intermediary, and citizens practice their agency. The trust in the platform depends on the number of implemented decisions made by citizens. It's about 75% of decisions which was implemented. The continuity of the chain, please. the next page. The continuity of the chain, decision post, voting held, decision made, decision implemented is considered as a main advantage of this platform. Noteworthy, the feasibility of citizen decision is not legally fixed. The continuity of the chain is reproduced in the work of the whole network in the translation processes. However, platform active citizens gradually becomes a mediator, which introduces noise in the interaction. It becomes noticeable, arises criticism from users, and calls for improvement action from the organizers. This happens when suspicions accumulate, and they are voiced not only by citizens, but also by the expert community and government actors. Suspicions force the actors who organize the platform to change some of the network's operating conditions. For instance, in 2017, they implement blockchain system in Active Citizen. Criticism from residents of the city has grown after the Moscow department in 2017 started using the platform for voting on citizens' property under the renovation program in Moscow. This criticism and suspicions, which led to the fact that the platform begins to function not as an intermediary, but as a mediator, we can explain only if we take into account how the different actors participate, how they achieve their different intentions, actualizing not their agency, but their activity. Not paying attention on the intentions of actors, ANT as a theoretical basis for describing the cases of digital governance technology may conceal the real hierarchy of these intentions. This theoretical strategy can explain how the platform works, but it is insufficient to explain the problems which prevent the implementation of mechanism for citizen participation. Thank you very much. I'm sorry you haven't seen my last picture, but thank you.
Yeah, okay, Lada, thank you so much. Because the question about ANT theory, actor network theory, this is question about world in which we are living. What this world? This is post-human world or transhuman world. And sometimes we see digital technology like post-human period in the development of history. But I think this is mistake. This is mistake in understanding because this is not post-human. This is very balanced relation between things and persons, between nature and society. Thank you so much, Lada. And now I would like to give opportunity to present ideas different of St. Petersburg, in different of Russia, I think. This is Gorbak Erika Elizabeth, Doctor, regular adjunct professor of constitutional law, University of Buenos Aires, Argentina. Please, Erika.
Thank you, Leonid. Thank you, everyone. Well, I will focus on this brief presentation on the municipal level in Argentina. Next slide, please. Next. Argentina has adopted in its original constitution in 1853 a representative federal government. In Argentina, we have approximately 45 million of inhabitants. Our territory is divided in a central government, and we have 23 autonomous provinces with its own constitutions. Also, every province has its own executive, legislative, and judicial system. We also have the city of Buenos Aires that has a special status. It's not considered a province, it's not considered a municipality, but also has autonomy, and it has its own executive, legislative, and judicial power also. And what is more complex is that we have almost 2,100 municipalities all over the country. that are very heterogeneous local governments with different extension, different population, different functional and organizational structures, and different levels of autonomy also. To date, only 200 municipalities have enacted its own organic charter. And next slide, please. We can talk about, if we want to understand a little more about the municipal level in Argentina, thank you. Each municipality has an executive department that is headed by a mayor. They also have a deliberative council, the legislative. Both are elected by popular vote for a term of 4 years. And we can see that it is possible to recognize 3 historical moments with different impacts on the municipal regime in Argentina. One from its original constitution in 1853 to late 80s, where the municipalities were not recognized as fully autonomous. Then, with the constitutional reform that took place in 1994, they were recognized as fully autonomous. They have new constitutions, many provinces that incorporate the functions of the municipalities, linked with the expansion also of the services and policies. And some of them also driven by citizen demands and experiences of other local governments, have incorporated ad hoc functions as well. Then we had a third type of local government, a third historical moment that seems to have emerged in the year 2000 onwards, the return to the national government to a central role, but that they not ignore the autonomy of the municipalities. Anyway, they need to articulate new decision-making spaces, and we see a more complex map that is configured with these different levels of municipalities and also the population that they have. For the digital government initiatives, here we can see we have 2 main pillars, the technological and the social one, the participation one, transparency, open data, and participation that are linked to the notion of possibly strengthening democracy. Here in this slide, we can see the different regions that we have in Argentina and the impact that these initiatives have at municipal level. For example, in the center region that you can see it in an orange color, there is a concentration of most municipalities with most population. It's very centered. Then we have, and they have the most kind of different initiatives, digital government initiatives, where we can find the less digital government initiatives at municipal level is in the south, in the pink region, and also in the northwest region. Then let me move forward. We can see some interesting findings that we have seen in different studies that, for example, they show that almost 98% of the municipalities that have more than 50,000 populations, inhabitants, have a website. In terms of different state capacities, it has been observed that they can use ICT, information communications technologies that are that have different degrees of accessibility, service provision, among other aspects. What we have seen is that there is a tendency to implement these policies in larger populations within these municipalities, but we don't see them when the municipalities, in our case, have a small population. We have seen also a low degree, in this case, of formal institutionalization, and that transparency policies, for example, are most applied Then they are followed by participation policies and to a lesser extent, open data policies. They have implemented different citizen participation forums. Also, in the dynamics, some of them in the participatory budget, that this is very important. And what the studies have shown is that as the number of inhabitants decrease, there is a drop in the number of municipalities that carried out this type of digital governance initiatives. So what we see overall is that the municipal system is characterized by a strong heterogeneity that almost in these studies show that 37% of the Argentine municipalities have so far implemented these kind of initiatives, but 63% claim to not have done so or not to a further extent. Next slide, please. And we can say some conclusions, for example, is that in any case, the scope are very uneven with municipalities that are registering a significant variety of information that they have available. Some have only just a few data information, some others you can participate further. But also what we have seen is that there are no many studies at municipal level, and we have to move forward on this. There is a relevance and dynamics that these initiatives are acquiring at a local level that we need to study further. Also, that we have many questions that we can make. As Margarita was saying, the generation gap, for example, the elderly, the handicaps, how they participate, also the personal data ethics that were mentioned. In the case of our colleague from South Africa, the immigration that we are also having from different countries. And as our colleagues, like for example, Jose Maria also has mentioned, also the risk of deterioration of democracy from society, to what extent these represent new challenges, and in this particular period that we are having also with the COVID times, so there are many questions that we have opened. There are many things to study and go further, but we can say that we are, if we want to be positive, we are moving forward on these issues. Municipalities have taken very quick measures to adapt to these times, but still we have many things to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Erika.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this good presentation, because I think Latin America give us many cases of good examples in the development of digitalization of public space. And Jose told about decreasing of democracy in Brazil, but in Argentina we have a more balanced situation, maybe, I don't know exactly, but and there's some problems with development of digitalization. For example, state capacities. It's very important questions for reconstructions of public sphere. Or another question that originated from the Erika presentation. This is low degree of formal institutionalization. It's very important also, because this is new experience. This is not very big limitation from the institutions to regulate this process, because this is self-organization of the people through different platforms. Thank you so much, Erika. So now I would like to give the word for Georg Sotla, Doctor, Professor of Public Policy, Tallinn University, Estonia. Estonia, it's very big country in the using of digital technologies in different fields. So please.
Okay. Thank you for Leonid possibility to have a presentation. I, as I understand, would summarize a bit our discussion here. And what was very surprising, Lada Shapovalova started her presentation about theory, which we discussed in June with you at your conference. And there was a lot of doubt about possibilities that action network theory, or better to say object-oriented ontology or flat ontology, could be used and could be useful in designing human networks. Probably this is not maybe fully understandable people who haven't read it. Then what is a core of that idea? The idea is that usually we are using IT solution, technical solution and software solutions. We are using as instrument for facilitating or easing our management, governance, success, and something like. But actually, non-human systems and IT systems could be useful for opening up some qualities and some capacities of human, which they otherwise cannot open in direct interrelations or communications. It means that Europeans have how to say, entered into gap of anthropocentrism, and they understood that their communicative capacities and how to say, social relations are very perfect and cannot be improved, cannot be how to say, developed further. Next, please. Then next slide, please. Then I would inform two very important discoveries and very important possibilities, which have revealed and have developed in order to transform human communications, new qualities, which would enable to develop policy issues and policy deliberation issues, which they haven't usually possible to solve. This we have tested, this method we have tested in our studies of developing of education network of actors at the county level. Which is the issue is that current theory of communication and understanding is that we are holding different frames. We are not communicating information. We are communicating our images, which have already formed and are very different from each other. And for that reason, people usually, when they are speaking with each other, they are not listening to each other. They are filtering information which is interesting to them. And also people usually having very rigid frames, cognitive frames. They are not able to look at oneself as bystanders. They have images not as they look like to others, but as they think they have for themselves. Next slide, please. And for that reason, we have usually such kind of communication. This is a figure from Mary Douglas, a very famous book on cultural frames. Then I would present one software solution which was worked out by Horst Rittel. It is called issue-based network systems, information systems, which is possible to unfold, upload communication between people who otherwise cannot communicate. It is a method of solution of intractable controversies, especially in situation when we have very deep conflict of frames, as interethnic conflicts, racial conflicts, immigration conflicts, and so on. And this is a three-level method of opening up people to themselves and to others. Firstly, is a dialogue level. Software is helping us to understand what other people are thinking. He is indicating, he's compelling us to listen others. The next is the debate stage. It is a comparison of arguments which we have. People have asymmetrical arguments, and this software is a kind of device for opening up our arguments up to the level we can compare with each other arguments, and then to decide, and then to debate, not to state, but to debate with each other. And the third level is a solution. It is finding patterns, not which are consensus patterns, but which are compatible temporal agreements which are suitable for all of others, all sides. This is a kind of modeling on the computer, how to say, acceptable patterns which are acceptable to all partners. And next slide. This software technology looks like that when we are step by step unfolding all the arguments, all the roads of discussion, and comparing, returning back, repeating them. And this is a very simple image of debates based on this Horst Rittel software in solving intractable controversies. In that case, it is obvious that without software support, people are not able to find common solutions. They are not able to communicate each other, and they have no habits of listening each other. And this is a kind of scenario writing for people, how they could understand each other. And the second device, the second possibility, which we have discussed about, especially in COVID crisis. Can we have next slide?
1 minute, please, George. 1 minute.
Okay. Very, very simple. It is very difficult case because, okay, I can myself upload. About how to solve situations, how to use software in the situation when there is a complete splintering on social space. It is exactly which we have in COVID crisis. And I will not describe this in depth. It is a blockchain technology which enable people to build up bottom up from individual isolation, communal networks of interactions when other possibilities, they have no social institutions, they have no social links which have interrupted after the crisis. And those are capacities of blockchain technology which are conducive to building up such kind of, how to say, self-regulating and self-organizing networks in social space. What this is introduction only two of IT devices which could activate people's capacities which they otherwise could not activate. And in that sense, we can use, I would like to communicate with Lada, how you are using actor network theory in developing an absolutely different kind of role of IT solution in social development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Georg. It's very important because sometimes we don't understand how we can use different technologies. For example, blockchain technology for organizing some public processes. And this is big problem. What does it mean? Privatization of public space, for example, like big problem of the organization of digital technology in public space, or marketization of public space using technology. So we need to think about public nature of some technologies and include this technology inside public governance. Thank you so much, Georg. And the last presentation, Yulia Slav, Vice Executive Director of the Council of Municipalities in St. Petersburg, Russia. Please, Yulia.
Hello to everybody, and thank you for this opportunity to present the experience of St. Petersburg, really to be short and to continue your interesting discussion, as I see it between this path between mechanisms and human scale. I'll shortly present the experience of St. Petersburg municipalities in this civic participation and digitalization. I should begin with that currently one of the main aims of Russian authorities at different levels is to increase the degree of direct civil participation in the implementation of policies and also the importance of involving citizens in decision-making process, including obligatory to use digital technologies, was repeatedly noted by the President of Russian Federation. And also we have the list of his instructions after the meeting of the Council for the Development of Local Self-Government in the beginning of this year. So such priorities are reflected now in all strategic documents of in Russian Federation at federal and regional levels. For example, we have it in the strategy of development of St. Petersburg till 2030 and other documents. The main forms of direct civic participation for municipalities of St. Petersburg are determined by the law of St. Petersburg, which is called on the Organization of Local Self-Government in St. Petersburg. However, in addition to these obligatory forms, such as elections, public hearings, and others, local authorities of St. Petersburg have a wide range of other practices which they usually use in their everyday work. And I would present these practices according to this digital topic. And saying about these digital forms of civic participation now, of course, we should mention this pandemic situation. And I should say that, for example, my organization, I present Council of Municipalities of St. Petersburg, as well as municipalities. We have them 111 here in St. Petersburg. Really had a great challenge to continue working with citizens in this new pandemic, and I think that after pandemic era. So it seems to me that, of course, I will present some forms that we used to use before this crisis. And I am sure that after this crisis, when we will rethink them, they will be even more effective or not effective, we don't know yet. But anyway, it's a very urgent and challenging topic for all for authorities of all levels. I should say that in St. Petersburg we have the smart city office, and it's working from 2017. And so one of the main mechanisms which other speakers have already mentioned, but about Moscow, in St. Petersburg, it's a portal called Our Petersburg. It's an electronic resource that allows people to publish information about various problems in the city, mostly about territory improvement and violation of order and so on, as well as track the solution of these issues by the responsible authorities. This resource was created in 2014 and 14. And I should say that from that time, more than 2.6 million appeals appeared there from citizens. Around this number, problems were solved. And nowadays, this portal have a little bit less than 2,000 users. So it's really widely used, but it has a lot of technical problems. So this is speaking about this human scale approach and technical approach. Also, of course, we have this one window approach when you can get city and municipal services at one place. Municipalities of St. Petersburg also use these. And I should say that along with these multifunctional centers, which we have in St. Petersburg, we have 64 such centers. Of course, the website, which is called State and Municipal Services, is more widely used, and they say that it's more than 70% of applications now are held in electronic form, and that's it. Speaking about municipalities and their local practices, I should say that they use such electronic resources that allow citizens to participate in the formation and distribution of city budget. We have such resources on the city level in the project, for example, of participatory budgeting called Your Budget. And also on the municipal level, when through the websites of municipalities, each municipality now has their websites, of course, through the social networks, through the group in social networks, citizens decide what they prefer to do on the territory. For example, in the frameworks of this national project formation of a comfortable urban environment, where it is where authorities are obliged to ask citizens for their opinion, where to put the playground and etc. Of course, especially now, almost all these actions are holding online via these resources which I mentioned above. And of course, now we are facing the fact that we have to develop these resources, because it seems to me that in this pandemic era, it's not that enough in this case. Also, very widespread practice is we call this electronic voting and polls, which also city administration and municipalities of St. Petersburg are holding rather often. For example, now we have a poll on city government portal. They ask about the quality of water cleaning and so on. It's also a very good mechanism. Maybe it is used for about last 3 or 4 years, but it really allows at least to hear the opinion of citizens living on the territory, what they prefer to do and what they prefer not. Also, I should say some words about Council of Municipalities activities in this field. It's more about face-to-face practices, of course, using digital technologies, especially now. We take part in international projects, and now we are holding the project called Empowering Participatory Budgeting in the Baltic Sea region. Together with ITMO University, we think about the preferable model for municipalities of St. Petersburg to take part in these participatory budgeting projects, because now we have this on the level of the city. We have a pilot there. It's one of the municipalities of St. Petersburg, but the project is still going on, so we'll see what will be in the end. And as a conclusion, I would like to show you the figures of the results made by more experts. And of course, it showed that majority of St. Petersburg residents are active internet users. About 40% of them use internet every day. But in spite of this fact, more than 40% of respondents noticed that face-to-face meeting are more preferable for them than this online communicating with the government. And so in the end, I should mention that to our mind, the mechanisms for raising awareness about smart cities are more technical now in St. Petersburg. And for example, special attention and big attention is paid to the development of infrastructure, but less attention is paid to the transformation of these social relations. And online forms are still very strong and they prevail. At least it was actual to the very recent time. And of course, I think this pandemic and COVID restrictions has already changed and will change a lot in this sphere. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Yulia. St. Petersburg, it's a very beautiful city, I think. And I invite all foreigners to be here, not like distance participant in our conference, but in offline conference also. The door of St. Petersburg is open for you. Okay. Thank you so much, Yulia. We have big and good experience in the including digital technology in the sphere of municipalities. So we finished fixed reports, fixed presentations. We have maybe 2 minutes. If somebody have hot desire to make some remarks on the discussion problems. Do you have? No. So we will finish, and I would like to say some words like conclusion of our conference. Today we had, I think, a fruitful exchange of view on the prospects for civil involvement in digital, using digital technologies in the public space. And each level of government, on level of central, regional, or municipal, there are the problems and their solutions. It is clear that digitalization is not only a solution of the problem of governability and public governance in today's complex society. It comes with many challenges and problems. As our discussion has shown, digitalization certainly creates a springboard for efficiency, consistency, sustainability, accountability, and cooperation between authorities and citizens, and these characteristics we could use for explanation of public governance. But we must also pay attention to some of the problems associated with digital inequality, uncertainty of digital rights, excessive digital control over public space, emerging problem of new rifts, confrontations, and conflicts. It is also important how the digital space will be managed as a space of freedom and interaction. And here, the combination of a multilateral approach with government regulations will help overcome the emerging inconsistencies and confrontations. In this regard, the BRICS is a good association that allows on another platform or an international network of experts, politicians, and ordinary citizens to discuss various public problems and to advance joint efforts to develop our countries. Thank you so much for the participants of our session. Thank you so much for organizer of this forum. In this difficult time, I want to wish you health and success in all your endeavors. Thank you so much for your participation and see you in future, I think. Thank you so much. We finished this session.